just mean if you need...
It is connected.
If you need any help, I will try my best.
Thank you. I think it's working.
Okay.
I think we'll just start.
Okay, we close the door.
That's, yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
So, welcome, Andrew Losowsky. I made sure that it's not Losowsky, but Losowsky, the way that we would pronounce it in Germany. You're the head developer of Coral at Mozilla, a new system that you'll present in a minute. And the topic has already been broached by Max Fischer of Vox. He said that commentaries under articles often resemble a terrible, bloody, horrible train wreck disaster. And many companies are grappling with that problem, trying to basically turn hateful yelling contests into meaningful conversations. And maybe you can give us some insight on the project that you're pursuing in conjunction with the New York Times and the Washington Post and some other really interesting partners. So it's over to you, Andrew.
Great, thank you, Herman. So this will be the worst designed presentation you will see today. And that actually is strangely deliberate. And the reason for that is this, that we have not built anything yet. And I want to be very open about this. This is not going to be a slick presentation because we don't have a slick finished product. The stage we're at is that I'm the project lead. I'm currently the only full-time staff member on this project. We're currently hiring and we're about to start building. The stage that we've been in up to this point has been about need finding, about gathering information from different kinds of users, from different news publishers from around the world, and also readers and consumers of news from around the world. So, to introduce the Coral project. Coral, the name, by the way, is, well, there is some Coral, and Coral is a system that supports other ecosystems. And that's what it is that we're trying to create. So, as you mentioned, Max Fischer, this is something he said earlier today, we don't have comments on Vox, and if I have my way, we never will. And another quote for you, if your comments are full of assholes, it's your fault. Now, this is the genesis of where Coral came from. It came about when Aaron Pilhofer, then of the New York Times, now the Guardian, got together with Corey Hake of the Washington Post and Sasha Cohen of the New York Times and said, we need to do something about this comment question. And really, I think the issue that we are facing as an industry that we never really faced up to properly before is, well, what's it for? Why do we have comments at all? And because we never really knew, we never really did anything with them. And so then we just left them and left them for whoever wanted to do something with that space. We weren't really intervening in that space. And so other people came there and liked the idea of shouting very loudly, wanting to be heard, using the brand of the newspaper, the publication, which means something, and being able to somehow spray graffiti, in a way, onto that space. And nobody stopped anybody doing that, and so it kept going. The comments were a thing that really just sort of came out of the box when we opened up and said, let's have a website. Oh, we'll base it on a blogging platform. Look, there were comments on it. And it was already there. And we never really stopped to think why. So what we're trying to do, and this is the group that I'm employed by the Mozilla Foundation, working with the Times, the Post, with a $3.9 million grant from the Knight Foundation, to work on this question of what does it actually mean to have a space with reader engagement? What do we actually want from our readers, the people formerly known as the audience, as some say? What do we want from our community? What does it mean, actually, to have a space where our community lives and engages, and alongside our journalism? So this is sort of the challenge that we started. It's a collaborative effort to improve communities and news sites through open source software, and that's very important. Everything we build is open source. Everything we build is free. Everything we build you can take and make your own versions of. Everything will be on GitHub. You can take it and do whatever you like without, you don't need any permission from us to do whatever you want with it. The project is a 2-year project. We're aiming to run it through July 2017. I'm happy to talk more about what will happen after that if you're interested. So what started with this idea of the comments are a problem, actually when you start to pick a bit deeper at this question of going, okay, well, this is a problem, what do we want from it? You end up at some quite fundamental questions of, well, what's the point of journalism? What's the mission of our organization? What are we trying to achieve with our readers, for society? And so, as I say, I've been going to a lot of different spaces and newsrooms, talking to commenters, talking to people who don't comment, people who used to comment, who got chased out of spaces because of harassment or abuse. And it feels like it's come down to three key topics. And these topics are community, identity, and journalism. And so these are sort of the focus of what we're trying to do and trying to build around. And what we're building is not going to be one platform. It won't be in July 2017, it'll be, here is Coral, install, yes, no, ta-da. What we're building is small products. We're going to be launching them every few months, and then testing them, and then improving upon them, and they will plug into each other with APIs, and you can then decide as a publisher which ones you want to take, and then plug them into your CMS. So it'll be up to you to say, we want this bit and this bit, we won't take that bit, and they'll work perfectly together and then work within the CMS that you use. So I'm going to look a little bit at each one of these. Now, I'm going to give examples of where I think the state is currently in the US. And my presentation is going to be very short, because I want us then to turn this into a discussion. I want to hear much more from you about what is the state here in Germany. What do you think, in your experience, have you experienced in terms of talking with readers, with journalists? Who in your newsroom is doing some really interesting things, engagement with audience as part of story building? Who are the biggest skeptics, and what are their concerns? Or what are your concerns if you're one of the biggest skeptics? So communities around news. So the current situation, it's comment boxes, it's forums, it's events. There's variable moderation. Some people moderate almost none at all. Some people moderate a lot. The New York Times has, I think they employ 13 full-time moderators, and they only open a handful of articles a day. So some places have a lot of moderation, and it's usually labor-intensive, and it's a combination of human and machine. There's usually somewhere, even if it's just kicking out spam, there's usually some kind of algorithm going on in the background. But the best solutions are always a combination of human and machine. There are some tools, they're very unevenly distributed. Some of them are free, some of them are very expensive. And the contributors have very little or no ownership over contributions. So it's very different from social media in that way. It's very hard as a contributor to any comment platform to download your comments, or to download a thread that you're part of, or to take it and move it somewhere else. You have to copy and paste manually. And also, if you want to create an article in which you want to quote from one of the comments, you can't embed usually a comment that has been lower down in your own comment stream. You have to take a screenshot, or you have to copy and paste. And there are problems of abuse and harassment and trolls, as I mentioned. So about the identity of readers. This really comes down to this question of who is it who is engaging with you. And one of the ways in which we have a sense of good behavior and bad behavior is if you have a persistent identity, or a sense of who people are. So how do we know who our readers are right now? Well, it's a lot of automated stuff, via cookies, data that is passively handed over. Yes, you have to approve the thing saying, yes, I approve cookies, but no one really knows what that means, usually when they're going to a site. And we're passively handing over a lot of data. Here's my IP address, here's the device I'm on, here's the times of day I go, cookie in my machine, here's where I went next, and so on. If someone subscribes, you have information about them there. You might ask them more questions than just their address, you might not. You might have a Facebook group where your biggest fans are liking you, or friends with you on there. You can get more information from that. Maybe if they follow you on Twitter. Maybe you do reader surveys. Maybe you do events. Maybe you have individual interactions with some readers. Maybe you bring people in for a focus group. So you have a very variable set of data and understanding of identity. Now, I know that especially in Germany, data retention and identity is a very big issue in this country. And so one thing to be clear of as well is that I'm employed by Mozilla, and the Mozilla has a manifesto. It's a 10-point manifesto. Here are the 3 most important points, I think, related to this. Individual security and privacy on the internet are fundamental and must not be treated as optional. Individuals must have the ability to shape the internet and their own experiences on it. Transparent, community-based processes promote participation, accountability, and trust. We are building a system in which it will be opt-in, not opt-out. We are building a system in which we are asking readers to join us in the journalistic missions of the publications, and to voluntarily be part of that If people don't want to be part of that, that is fine. Now that, of course, is what we are building. I'm fully aware this is open source. If a publisher wants to take it and create a different system to it, that may well happen. But what we are building, what we're setting as default, what we are constructing is a system in which individuals have control over their information and their privacy. So, then there's the question of journalism. Journalism and readers. Like, what is the relationship between journalists and readers? Right now it's mostly broadcast ad. It's not created with. Readership is passive. Reader knowledge or perspective usually comes afterwards. We finish the story, we're done, moving on to the next. Oh, and then a reader writes in with an interesting follow-up or places in the comments some really interesting information they have, and it kind of just sits there, and we might say thank you, we might acknowledge it, we might not. We might file it away if we decide to do a follow-up. Probably not, we've moved on, and so the information and the knowledge from the readers isn't completely lost, but it's not integrated with the journalism. And so we have very limited engagement with readers in terms of fulfillment of the mission. Not every journalism organization wants to change that. I believe that one of the issues that journalism is facing, definitely in the US and in the UK, is that young people feel less connected to journalism and its mission. Young people feel less understanding of what the point is of journalism, why to pay for journalism, what is its meaning, what is its function. They like the idea of information, but what journalism is and isn't, people really struggle with, and they struggle with what its overall value is. If we are not encouraging our readers to be part of the mission, to be helping us with it, to be engaged with it, the idea is the mission is bigger than the journalism organization itself. It's a societal good. And if we can't encourage and help those who are engaging with our work to be part of that mission, to buy into that mission, literally to buy into that mission, then we're not going to be able to sustain the idea of people who are engaged with what it is we're doing. And so this is what we're trying to create, is a series of tools that help encourage that. So, a slightly longer version of what we're doing. It's a series of open source tools to empower readers and publishers of all sizes to collaborate more closely and to create stronger communities around news and news gathering. In other words, this is not we're building a slightly better comment box. What we are doing is creating user-generated content tools. Bless you. We're creating engagement tools. We're creating identity management. We're creating a sense of who you are and how you can help us. We're creating a sense of, can I easily email everybody who knows about this subject who lives in this area within a couple of clicks as a journalist and be able to find sources and encourage and get more information and get help with the work that I'm doing. Right now, there are some places that are doing this. Kraut Reporter is a really interesting example in what they're doing. There are individual moments where journalists are doing some very interesting examples, and I can give you an example from the New York Times. A journalist called Elizabeth Rosenthal, she wrote a series last year called Paying Till It Hurts. And this is a series about the costs of healthcare under Obamacare and how some people were really struggling with some of the costs they were facing. And so they built for her a custom user-generated content call-out that appeared a third of the way down the article. It wasn't at the bottom. It wasn't email us with your stories. It was, oh, here we're talking about this breast cancer drug. Are you on one of these drugs? If so, just fill out this really short form and tell us what stage cancer you're at, what's the drug, how much you're paying, where do you live, and any more information about how that's impacting you. And then when they closed that off, and then as they came in, she was responding to every single one of them and then posting them alongside the questions where, here are some of the answers we've received so far. Then when she closed the questionnaire, it was just the answers. And then they created a custom database for her so that she could very easily continue an email conversation. And that didn't appear in her inbox. It appeared in this space. So she could very quickly and instantly say, okay, here are the people who've been more engaged in it. Here are how I can arrange them in this way and that. I can instantly see the thread of conversation I've had with them and can really easily reply to 3 at once. Just go click, type, click, type, click, type. Not go into email, open inbox, look at each one, look at the data. Instantly would be able to do this. Very quick and simple, very nice UI, very simple database. She then continued that and started up a Facebook group to get more stories. And this was actually quite controversial in the Times, and she had to fight to be able to do it. In the end, it only happened because her series was getting so much attention that someone else was about to start a Facebook group about it. And so she said, well, why don't we just own this? So they said, all right, well, if you want to, but it's going to be a lot of work for you. It's probably not worth your time. But if you want to do it, okay, that's fine. So she did, created a Paying Till It Hurts Facebook group. As a result of the call-outs she was doing in the articles and the Facebook group, a 5-article series became a 12-article series. Not only that, but the Facebook group, this was a year